So Rob Parsons joins me now in the studio. Rob, the picture on the ground seems quite confused. What's the latest on what
it is very confusing, particularly as we're getting different reports of what happened from different organisations. Even the military itself seems at odds with itself on precisely what happened, with some of them saying that they didn't actually attack the demonstrators at all, that if they did attack, it was on a marginal group just to the edge, whereas others are already saying, of course, and we're seeing the images, of course, that it quite clearly did happen. But there's no doubt that the attack started pretty early, around about dawn by all accounts, and seems to have been led by the Rapid Support Forces, this sort of semi-paramilitary group, which used to be the Janjaweed, which were one of the more brutal arms of the Sudanese military in and around Darfur, accused of human rights abuses on a massive scale. They've tried to improve their image over the last few months of negotiations, but they were the ones who were leading the way in this attack on the demonstrators, backed up by, it seems, by the police. The number of casualties is going up all the time, but the latest seems to be that 14 people have died, hundreds wounded. The Rapid Support Forces have apparently been going into hospitals, shooting, attacking medical staff. It's impossible, apparently, for protesters to get in to find out what's going on. They can't get access to the dead. The situation, as you rightly said, is very confused on the ground. Thousands of people pouring out onto the streets. The bridges across the River Nile have been blocked to prevent easy movement around the city. And at this stage, it's not very clear where things are going to go, although it is clear that demonstration area in front of the army headquarters has been cleared.
You mentioned people pouring out into the streets. Tell us more about the response of protesters.
Well, the protesters' response, as you would expect, has been pretty strong. The Forces for Declaration of Freedom and Change, which is the organisation set up to negotiate with the military in the talks about the future of Sudan, has condemned what's happened, has said it's cutting off talks with the military council, the Transition Military Council. It's calling for a general strike and for civil resistance against the military takeover. We've had other organisations like the Sudanese Professionals Association saying pretty much the same and calling for people to take to the streets. You know, what ordinary Sudanese people make of this, one can only assume, but clearly this is a protest movement which has gained enormous popularity. They will obviously be very concerned that what they thought was within their grasp, a transition to a democratic government, is being snatched away from them. Internationally, we've had strong condemnation from the United States Embassy in Sudan of what has happened, saying the buck effectively stops with the military council. Similar from the British authorities in the British Embassy in Sudan. No comment as yet, interestingly, from Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, which both have a very much a vested interest in how things develop. They, perhaps more than anybody, would like to see the military cling on to power.
Where to from here?
Well, you know, everything, I think, is at this stage up in the air. It's difficult to read this without being on the ground and seeing how things are developing. A lot will depend, of course, on how determined the protesters are to resist this. It will take enormous bravery, obviously, in the face of what appears to have been a very brutal attack on the demonstrators today. Live fire used against protesters. If the protest doubles in size, becomes bigger as a consequence of this, then clearly there's no knowing where this would end. The military may find that they've miscalculated. The other, I think, imponderable here is the extent to which the military is united itself in this policy. Because, as I was saying just a minute or two ago, the reaction from the military authorities has been a little bit contradictory. Some of them appearing to say that they didn't attack the demonstrators at all. It was just a fringe group where the criminal activities had been carried out and that the demonstrators were still continuing to protest outside the HQ. That clearly is not the case, but it may be the case that there is a division between the Rapid Support Forces that I was talking to and regular army units inside the city. Remember, earlier on in the development of this protest movement, the soldiers came to the assistance of the protesters when they were attacked by groups like the Rapid Support Forces. Maybe something similar is about to happen now, and there are divisions within the military itself. But at this stage, we don't really know.
All right, thank you very much for your analysis, Rob. Now, in Germany,